Meet my mate Billy. He is 22, a healthy adult, and has no underlying health conditions. Fantastic, we'd all love to be Billy. Now, Billy has just woken up with a fever and a dry cough. Under government advice and general common sense during a world pandemic, Billy should self-isolate for a minimum of 7 days to make sure he recovers and does not put anyone else at risk. However, Billy decides it's just a flu that his super healthy immune system can overcome, so he goes to meet his 3 best mates. Unknownly to Billy, he has just passed on the coronavirus to all 3 of them. Not to worry, they're all young lads with healthy bodies. However, not everyone they come into contact with will be as lucky. As they had only become infected an hour ago, they do not show any symptoms at all. Jack goes to rugby training, Sam goes to work, and Russ goes out clubbing. Now this is how exponential growth begins. On average, a person that becomes infected with coronavirus goes on to infect another 3 people. Now, those people will go on to infect another 3 people each. This may not sound like much, but by the time we reach only 10 steps away from Billy, Billy has passed the virus on to 59,000 people. This is where self-isolation and social distancing come into play. If Billy had self-isolated for a minimum of 7 days, even if his symptoms passed prematurely, he would have done his part in slowing the spread of the virus. Similarly, if Jack, Sam and Russ are aware that he was ill and they had been in contact with him, they should have gone home and quarantined as a precaution. It's important to remember that just because you don't show any symptoms doesn't mean you're not carrying the virus. People, like Russ, can also be asymptomatic carriers. This means that Russ went on to never show any symptoms at all while his body fended off the virus. It also shows how quarantining as a precaution helps slow the spread of the virus. If Jack stays home, he cuts the chain reaction of the spread from his part. Russ also decides that going clubbing during a world pandemic is not helpful to anyone and definitely not a necessity. Sam has to go to work as he works for a local supermarket who is struggling to restock the toilet paper. Although Sam will go on to spread the virus, every person that steps back from the chain reaction causes a dramatic decrease in the speed that it spreads. So, should Billy have gone to see his friends while he had mild symptoms? Don't be silly, Billy. On another important note, if your favourite pubs and clubs have closed to help slow the spread, do not host a house party instead, as you are effectively doing the exact same activity with the same amount of spreading and just changing the location. Similarly, if your local gym is closed, do not create a running group to fill the void, as sweating and coughing in each other's spaces completely defeats the purpose of closing the gym in the first place. Should Billy host his gathering to get to know the neighbours now that they're all home from work? It's not a bank holiday, don't be silly, Billy. On that note, we move swiftly onto the misconception that fresh air acts as a barrier. COVID-19 spreads through droplets. A single sneeze can consist up to 3,000 droplets. People seem to think that if they continue with their usual social life or hobbies outdoors, they're stopping the spread. Incorrect. If Billy sneezes outside, the smaller droplets can linger in the air. Not ideal running through those on your evening jog, as you may have unknowingly caught them. The air does not make you immune. So, should Billy go for his CrossFit class with 30 other people just because it's on a field? Don't be silly, Billy. Moving on to my favourite argument and the one that really blows my mind. There's so many other diseases and problems. People die from car crashes, suicides and the flu every year, but we don't go into quarantine for that. Okay, let's break this down. Let's say the hospital has a maximum capacity of 1,000 people per day, and on average there's 400 people with broken legs, 300 people having a heart attack, and 100 people with uncontrollable vomiting. If 200 more people turned up with coronavirus needing hospitalisation, the other patients won't just suddenly disappear and the hospital hits capacity. If 2,000 more people with coronavirus turn up, the hospital will have a sudden large influx of people needing to be seen that it physically can't cope with, and that's the problem. Coronavirus isn't a substitute for all our existing problems, it's an addition, and a very large and difficult to manage addition for that matter. You see, the faster the virus spreads, the larger the influx of people needing treatment at once, and the less the hospitals can cope. If hospitals were dedicated to just dealing with coronavirus, it'd be different, but people will still break legs and have heart attacks, and that's why we need to flatten the curve. The key difference is also the diseases themselves. Let's take the seasonal flu as an example. People's main argument seems to be that the flu also kills every year, so why doesn't everything get shut down? There are 2 main differences. The standard flu only survives on surfaces for about 2 hours. COVID-19 survives for a reported 48 hours. That is 24 times longer. Similarly, the seasonal flu has a mortality rate of approximately 0.1%, while the coronavirus stands at 3%. That means for every 1 million cases, the seasonal flu only results in 1,000 deaths, while coronavirus takes 30,000. A higher number of coronavirus cases also end up critical than the seasonal flu, which means that more ventilators are required. As each hospital and country has a limited amount of these ventilators to keep people alive, countries with a high influx at a fast rate cannot physically attend to all the patients. Italy have reached the point where the doctors have to choose who they think has a higher chance of survival, and that's the patient that receives the ventilator. So they literally have to leave the alternative people to die because they can't accommodate for it. That's why the lockdown and quarantining, even if you're healthy, is vital, and we need to slow the spread to give hospitals a chance. Is Billy still going to use other diseases as an excuse for visiting the beach during the pandemic? Don't be silly, Billy.
This video is not meant to panic people, but it is meant to drive home the reality of what we're facing. It's not just the flu, but it is very easily prevented by simply staying home. The fortunate thing about the situation is that even though it feels like a world war, the entire population is fighting a common enemy. If your grandparents and great-grandparents had to risk their lives in wars and all you're being asked to do in order to contribute to the battle is stay at home and watch TV, it really shouldn't be a difficult choice. This isn't about you or your immune system, so if you still want to act like you don't care, it's not a big deal, and that people's lives aren't at risk because you're too stubborn to follow the rules, you're an arsehole, Billy.